What is going on, guys? Hey, I wanted to come back to you this evening and bring you a little more JLP. And in this episode, he's talking to a lady who does diversity and inclusion training for companies. And I find her a little bit arrogant, but it's up to you guys. You guys can make up your own minds about that. But I sampled about a 10-minute section of the video thereabouts, and I commented on it. And but hey, guys, if you would, please like and subscribe to my content. And for those that already have, thank you very much. I really appreciate the support. Thank you.
Tiptoe around its employees.
Hey,
you would tell the employees. You would tell the employees that they need to be right, do right,
you're
or they're gonna get fired.
You're telling me.
If you truly believe, because you're right. You're right about in our weakness is when God make us strong and we know how to endure. But if you truly believe that, you would tell the blacks and the homosexuals and the women that y'all got to act right, do the right thing on the job, be on time, stop complaining, do your work. You wouldn't tell the boss to tiptoe around the weak.
I tell everybody who I encounter, including you, that you need to act right all the time.
Do you say that to the blacks too?
You're telling me, I don't discriminate the way that you do, clearly.
What do you mean?
People.
I don't think he discriminates. I think he says things that he sees as true, and a lot of times I see them as true. And just states what he has to state and is not worried about what people think about it. I mean, but as far as discriminating against people, I don't believe that's what he's doing. But I think he ticks a lot of people off.
Listen, no. You're telling me how I should show up in a workplace?
Yeah.
I've been in business for 17 years, and I have never knocked on a business's door and solicited their business. People come to me and they ask me for my...
Maybe just a little bit arrogant.
help.
Well, that's because the white people are afraid of the blacks now. They're afraid because they're trying to figure out, Lord, I gotta hire these blacks.
I've been doing this for 25 years.
They're like, Lord, I gotta hire these blacks, and I don't know how to deal with them. So I'm gonna bring in somebody.
When did white people get scared of black people?
For the last 70 years, they're afraid of being called racist. They're afraid of being sued. They're not afraid of the black person.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. I think white people right now are afraid of being called racist. And that's the worst thing you can be called, in at least the way that most people see it, and most white people see it, is they don't want to be called racist. And I believe, like especially some of my white liberal friends are very afraid of that. They want to go out of their way to make sure people know, look, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. Like, I love the blacks. I love this. I love that. And it's like, but I do agree with what he's saying, that, yeah, people are afraid. They're afraid of being called racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic, and they tiptoe around everything to make sure they're not called that
per se, but they're afraid of being sued or called racist. But I want to ask you,
why would they be afraid of being sued if they weren't doing anything wrong?
But they're not. The black person just have to say it, and then the courts or whatever assume that the white...
the courts are biased in favor of black people? What
Yes.
state do you live in?
Yes, they are.
What state do you live in? California?
Yes.
Yeah, the courts, statistically and objectively speaking, are not biased in favor of black people. If white people...
See, right there, she's saying objectively the courts are not biased against white people. Well, and again, I'm not saying they are. I'm not, I'm no expert on this stuff. But I will say one thing. I think as a culture, we are very much for the victim right now, like people that are in the victim categories. And so it's like the Me Too type stuff. And I'm not saying that a lot of these women are not telling the truth. I'm not saying that at all. But there are a lot of women that don't tell the truth, but they're believed. A lot of times I think we look at the victim, quote unquote, categories as, oh, geez, poor victims. And so I believe a lot of people look at people that are part of the victim categories. And I think Black people are part of a victim category right now. And that's kind of, I think, what he's getting to is the courts. I think, again, I'm no expert on this stuff. I'm not saying I know it. I'm not saying that at all. But I get what he's saying. He's saying right now the culture, we believe the quote unquote victims first, and then we have to take evidence. Then we look at the evidence. We look at the evidence afterwards, but we believe the victim first. And like if somebody is called a racist, they are demonized and called a racist, and we look at them as racist. And if the evidence comes out afterwards that they're not racist, then that's kind of, quickly shooed away. We don't cover that too much, but we cover when somebody accuses somebody else of being racist. We cover that. So, it's like if you're labeled a racist, you're labeled that way. It's like it takes a lot to persuade people against that, even if the evidence says you're not racist.
That's not true. Believe me, I heard of tons of. I know businessmen. I told you earlier.
It's about looking at the data.
I told you earlier.
It's the court of public opinion. If people are afraid of being, of automatically being labeled a particular way, and they're afraid that it's just like myself. I don't need an assistant, but if I did, I would be afraid of hiring a woman. Not because I would do anything wrong, but the fact of the matter is we live in a culture a society to where the Me Too, the women are victim classes, and they are seen in a particular way, and men have to prove that they didn't do anything wrong, not women having to prove that men did something wrong, but men a lot of times have to prove that they didn't do anything wrong, and even if they can, that's not covered too much. It's just quickly, kind of glossed over in the media. So, I get what he's saying.
A lot of businesses don't want to hire blacks because in California, New York, racist. And other states, they're afraid of being sued. Because they're racist. So let me ask, before we talk about your brand new book, you also wrote a book called Overcome.
Because you're afraid.
Common bias. Mm-hmm. And is it ever okay to be biased?
Everyone is always biased. That's part of the human condition.
Is it okay to be that way?
It just depends on what it is. I prefer chocolate ice cream over vanilla ice cream, and it doesn't matter. But if I say I prefer chocolate people over vanilla people, and I'm running a company and I'm only hiring vanilla people, then yes, that's a problem.
So is it okay?
What?
Okay to be biased.
It's human to be biased.
And so it's normal.
It's normal, yes.
Right. Is it okay to discriminate?
No, you should. Not against people. No, you shouldn't discriminate against people.
Not against people. You shouldn't discriminate against people. What?
Do you ever just particularly what?
It is illegal to discriminate against people in protected categories.
Do you?
Oh. So we can't discriminate against people in protected classes or protected categories. But what if you're out of that category? What if you're, like I would say, like a 30-year-old man, a 30-year-old white man who's not disabled? He is no disability. He's not over the age of 40, so he doesn't. There's no age discrimination there. So we can't. Again, what if the people that are making the hiring choices don't like, 30-year-old white men? I mean, So what I'm saying is, again, protected classes. She's saying protected classes.
You ever discriminate?
Everyone discriminates.
How about you?
Yes, of course.
And so if it's not good to do that, why do you do it?
I don't do it on purpose, and I check myself.
You discriminate accidentally?
Huh?
You discriminate accidentally?
That's what unconscious bias is.
But it's a God-given right to discriminate. It's not something you made of yourself.
No, it's not. But I work every day to overcome it, because these are not things. I can't wave a magic wand. And I tell the disclaimer for that book is, you read this book, you're not going to be free of all your bias. If you are a responsible human being with a good and loving heart, whether that's a Christian heart, a Muslim heart, a Jewish heart, or an atheist heart, if you have a good and loving heart and you care about the well-being of human beings, then you will take the work upon yourself to try to purge your biases. And every time you purge one, a new one gonna pop up behind it, because it's called being human. But you'll work to purge your biases, and you will work to hold yourself accountable. And when you catch yourself discriminating, you'll back up, you'll acknowledge it, and you'll apologize to the person in front of you who you may have caused harm. That's amazing. How I roll.
Well, amazing. Yeah, that's how you roll. And I do understand to a degree what you're saying, but I think it needs to include all people, not just protected classes, but all people. And, I think we have to be honest about that there is bias against people that you consider not to be in protected classes. So, but again, I do understand to a certain degree what she's saying. I'm not saying I don't. And I'm not saying I disagree with her about everything, but I think she needs to look at some of the things she's saying.
Do you love white people?
I love all people.
How about?
Just answer the question. Just answer yes or no, because he's going to ask you until you answer yes or no.
White people.
All people.
Do you love white people?
White people, black people, Asian people, Jewish people, Christians, atheists, agnostics, Gnostics, all of the people. I love them all.
Do you love white people?
Yes, all people.
Do you love white people?
I love all people.
But
yes.
I'm not asking about all people, just white.
Sure. But I don't love white people exclusive of other people.
Joe Biden said he want to put blacks, Native Americans, I think that's the Indians, Latinos, and women first. Is that bias against white men to do that?
No, what he is doing is he is trying to create balance and equity.
Is that bias?
Balance and equity. Lady, look, we need to have equal opportunities, but there's not going to be equal outcomes. People are going to work towards things in different ways, and some people are going to be disciplined to work towards particular goals that others won't. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, it's like there can be equal opportunities. I mean, right now, more women go to college and graduate from college than men do, but we're seeing still a higher percentage of men that are at the very top. Starting like running these big companies and everything else. So, I think there's a particular particular groups of people want to be in particular professions and at particular levels. I don't think that all people want to be these high CEOs or whatever. And I think equity scares me, because we don't need to put people in positions of power they have no business of being there. They didn't work themselves, to get there, to get to those places. So I think we have to be careful with things like equity.
Against white men to do that.
No, white men have the automatic advantage, the automatic unearned advantage.
Is that inclusive of white men?
White men, let's go through the government. Let's go through the entire United States government across all 50 states and count the number of white people and white men, and then tell me whether or not that's exclusive of white men.
So you think...
See, I mean, here's the thing. Unearned advantage. So, again, you're going to tell me that a white kid that grows up in a trailer park with a mother on drugs and a father that's in prison has an unearned advantage over a black kid with two professional parents, like two doctor parents. And how? I mean, so again, we're kind of prescribing a certain amount of privilege, that we're saying that people have privilege if you're white. If you're saying that people have privilege because they're white and because they're male, that's kind of generalizing. That's kind of, that is generalizing. So you can call something privilege, but again, and if more white men go towards something, maybe, just maybe, that's part of the culture. What I'm saying is maybe white boys are being patted on the backs by their dads and saying, you know what, go after what you want. Go do what you want. Don't let anyone stop you. Go do it. Build what you want to build. I know that, for me, I got 2 sons and a daughter. And I say that to all 3 of my kids, but specifically my sons. I tell my sons, go build, do what you want to do. So I think it's part of the culture. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here. But I wanted to put this up because I saw this conversation and I really... I think it kind of points to a problem in our culture where I think we're putting down people, young black boys. We're and maybe black girls as well, but we're saying, hey, look, you have a disadvantage over your white counterparts. They have more privilege than you do. So I think a couple things happen. Number one, you set them up thinking that, no matter how hard I try, I'm running a race where I can't win. Number one. And number two, you're teaching them to kind of to hate their white counterparts. You're teaching them to hate. And if you're teaching them to hate, you're actually doing them a disservice, because that hatred is going to stop them from becoming what they could become. It's going to impair them in life. It's going to kind of be like a cancerous growth, so to speak, on their being, on their soul, on their they're not going to be able to, they're going to have a hard time overcoming that. So I think you're setting them up for failure. And I think also you're hurting the white kids too, because you're saying that, hey, you know, you have privilege, you have this, you have that, and you ought to be able to make something out of yourself because you've been given all these privileges in life. And so, you know, I think again, I think we're muddying the waters in so many ways with all this diversity and inclusion training and everything else. And again, you know, that's just kind of my thoughts on this. I normally don't get involved with this stuff, but people are people. White people, black people, you know, it doesn't matter. People are people. And nobody is better than the other. And there needs to be equality of opportunity. We need to strive for that. We need to make things equal in that way, opportunity, but not as far as outcome. And whenever you have equality of opportunity, you have a free culture, a free society. But whenever you have equality of equity of outcome, equality of outcome, you don't have, by its very definition, you don't have an equal society if you have equal outcomes, because it's not going to be equal. You're never going to have equal outcomes. And it scares me when people talk about that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, again, equal opportunities, but equal outcomes, no. Some people are going to be faster and better than other people at certain things. And let's not forget, let's not shoot the fastest runner in the leg in order for the other runners to catch up. Because you're not making the other runners faster. You're making the fastest slower. Again, guys, if you would, please subscribe to my content and hit that like button. Thanks.
You son of a.